Would you be the jerk for not sharing your lottery winnings if it was a white elephant gift you received? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for telling my sister her baby isn't a real baby? I, 26-year-old female, got engaged to my fiance on January 1st. I was very excited to share with my family, of course, and everyone congratulated me and my fiance. I sent a picture of my ring to my family group chat as well as my Instagram, and everyone has been commenting on the fact that I got a very big diamond. My diamond is a lab-grown diamond that's just under 5 carat. I specifically asked for a lab diamond as I believe they're more ethical, as you never know if a mined diamond is a blood diamond. My sister, 31-year-old female, was very excited for me, but as soon as I showed her my ring, her mood changed, and she was telling me that it was too flashy and that it's not practical and that it's too trendy and not timeless. My ring is a pear-shaped solitaire ring with a marquee band, and I love it. My sister then told me that there was no way that my fiance could afford my ring. True, if it was a mined diamond, it would be 10 times the price, and my fiance is a second-year resident, and that I should test to see if it's a real diamond. I replied that since it's a lab diamond, it was a lot less expensive. She then proceeded to tell me how lab diamonds aren't real diamonds, and since they're made in a lab, it doesn't hold the same sentimental value. My sister's ring is a small 1-carat mined diamond, and it's beautiful. I never said anything bad about her ring, and it suits her. I tried to laugh it off, and I told her that I asked for a lab diamond and that I don't want a mined diamond. When I said that, she started yelling at me that it wasn't even a real diamond in the first place and that it was grown in a lab, not the ground. That's when I said, by her logic, my niece wasn't a real baby then because she was an IVF baby and grown in a lab too. My sister and her husband had a lot of issues conceiving, as my sister had some complications with endometriosis. Their IVF journey was really tough and they had multiple rounds and attempts, and one miscarriage, but finally got lucky and had my very healthy niece last year. I know my sister had a hard time conceiving, that was kind of the point I was making. My niece started in a lab, but she has a beautiful meaning behind her life too. When I made the comment that my niece wasn't a real baby because she was an IVF baby, my sister started crying over the phone. Her husband then called me and berated me and told me I was insensitive and couldn't understand the depths of her emotional turmoil and that I shouldn't have started a fight over a ring. He even said I was ableist? I have endometriosis too. My mom says it's not a big deal, but I should let my sister cool off. I usually babysit my niece pretty often, but my sister hasn't been answering my calls for a week. My fiance says although I probably shouldn't have said that, I was justified. I didn't mean it seriously. I know my niece is a real baby and I adore her and spoil her all the time. Am I the jerk? So I definitely get where OP's coming from, but at the same time I think this is that kind of level of comment where you should apologize for it. Like, that's one of the ones where you might even be justified saying it in the heat of the moment, but when you understand how that impacted her on a personal level with her IVF struggle, I think that's the tipping point where you have to become a little bit grounded and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it that far. AHBS3 commented, everybody sucks here. Sister is the jerk for being so transparently jealous, and you are absolutely the jerk for using your sister's conception issues to try and score points in a sibling argument. Oh, and your mom is also the jerk for thinking that isn't a big deal. I feel sorry for your dad. I truly do. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, want to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for grounding my 15-year-old daughter after she colored her hair? As a disclaimer, I have nothing against colored hair or people who choose to color their hair. My hair was bright green as a teenager. My daughter Alexis, not her real name, is 15. She's been dancing recreationally since she was 3 years old and has been doing competitive dance since she was 9 years old. She has nationals coming up, which is basically a very big and important dance comp where studios from surrounding states come to this big convention center in the city and compete. She is also obsessed with Paramore, thanks to my husband who's taken her to many of their live shows. She idolizes Hayley Williams and has wanted to dye her hair like Hayley's for a few years now. This year, for her birthday, she wants to dye her whole head neon orange. I told her absolutely not because she's not allowed to have any unnatural hair colors for nationals and other conventions and comps that are coming up. She is very well aware of this rule because it's the standard in the competitive dance world. I've already paid all of the entry fees and cannot get a refund for this year. I told her that once nationals and all the mandatory conventions are over, she can color her hair however she wants. She did not like this answer and stomped off to her room. I figured I would just let her be and eventually she would come around. I was wrong. She went to a sleepover at her friend's house about a week ago and came back with the same bright orange hair I told her she could not have. I was cooking when she walked into the house and nearly dropped the knife I was using. I was extremely upset and asked her what she was thinking. She gave some excuse which I can't remember, then rolled her eyes and said something along the lines of, "It's just hair dye, it'll come out before nationals." I was livid and shouted at her, which I'll admit I'm not proud of, and she ran off to her room in tears. She knows better, and I'm completely dumbfounded as to why she thought it would be okay, considering nationals is in 2 weeks. She's washed her hair at least 6 times in the past few days, and the orange is still stuck. I bought color remover and let it sit on her hair for a good 2 hours and nothing. I'm so ticked because now I'm going to have to take her to the salon and spend $300+ to get this color removed when I'm already over $400 deep in the hole after the fees for the competition. My daughter is currently grounded, still upset with me, and hasn't spoken more than a few words to me in days. She cried to my husband after I shouted at her, and now he thinks I'm being unreasonable and called me Momzilla. Am I being crazy about this? She knew the rules, and I even told her she could do the hair dye after we get this over with. If the color doesn't come out, she literally won't be able to compete, and I'll have wasted over $400. Edit. Looking at some of these comments, I just want to clarify that when I asked Alexis if she wanted to compete, she was very enthusiastic and told me yes. She's done nationals every year for a few years now and has loved it every time she's done it. I am very clear with her that since it is optional, she has the choice whether or not she wants to still participate, and I'm not forcing her in any way to do it. I'm upset because she told me she wanted to do it, I paid the fees, and now we can't back out of it, but also she will not be able to compete if the orange doesn't come out. I think OP's not the jerk. Obviously, I was going to mention something about maybe she doesn't really care all that much or doesn't really want to compete, but with OP adding that caveat that they've talked over it and she's very clearly wanting to do this, I can very much understand that as the parent that spent $400 to give your kid this opportunity and you just have one pretty simple rule of don't dye your hair, that naturally it would be very upsetting that they went and did the exact thing you said they can't do, that they know is the wrong thing to do. Figwort commented, "Not the jerk. Honestly, I would just leave it. Take her to nationals, and when they tell her she can't compete because of her hair, she can look the consequences of her actions in the eye, and then she can pay you back the $400 she wasted by not just waiting a few weeks. She's plenty old enough to know that she made a mistake. That's if she wants to compete. Maybe she was trying to get out of it without telling you? I say this all as someone who's been dyeing their hair fashion colors since they were 15. I fully support self-expression, but you have to time it right if you have events like this." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not allowing my dad to share a room with his sister in the care home? About a year ago, my dad, 80s, had to go into a care home. He has dementia, incontinence, mobility issues, among other health concerns. We did our research and found him the very best place. They take such good care of him and he is thriving there. One thing to point out is that we made sure that he has his own private suite. We felt he deserved privacy since he does have bathroom accidents and has to be cleaned regularly. Of course, being the best facility and having a private suite, it is very expensive. Over $12,000 a month, and they do not accept any type of insurance coverage except for the doctor's charges. Recently, my dad's sister has also gotten to the point where she needs 24/7 care, and my cousin agrees that the facility my dad is in is the best in our area. When he called him for that information, he was shocked at the cost. He mentioned that his mom's brother, my dad, was a resident there. They told my cousin that my dad and his mom could share a room and it would be $4,500 a month cheaper per person. My cousin then told the facility that they would be sharing a room. He just assumed we would be okay with it since it's a significant savings. My cousin did mention to us that his mom would be joining our dad at the home, but we didn't realize he meant in the same room. Obviously, the home called us to verify it was okay for my dad's sister to move into his suite. We were shocked and said no. We made it a point to get my dad a private suite. There was a waiting list for the private rooms, and the fact that the other person would be his sister makes no difference to us. We feel that he worked hard his whole life and deserves the best, including a private suite in his last days. Now my cousin is upset because he feels like they may not be able to afford that facility otherwise, and his mom deserves the best too. I don't know their finances, but I know my aunt has some money saved, plus a house that's fully paid off that can be sold. I just think my cousin is concerned about his future inheritance. Plus, his mom does have the option to share a suite with another female resident for the same discount, but he's concerned about mom sharing with a stranger and also having to deal with another family. He said he wouldn't be able to afford a private room at this care home and would only allow his mom to share a room if it was with my dad. This home truly is the best and has a very high standard of care, and he wants his mom there as opposed to a less expensive place. Am I the jerk for refusing to allow my dad to share a suite with his sister, even if it means she wouldn't be able to afford this care home otherwise? ETA, this home is specifically for dementia/Alzheimer's patients. My dad and his sister both have advanced cases of Alzheimer's/dementia. I can't just ask my dad what he wants since he can't understand. We have power of attorney for him. He has good days and bad. Sometimes he recognizes that he knows us and sometimes he doesn't. I know he wouldn't recognize his sister at all, but may understand who she was if we told him, although he would probably keep forgetting. I don't think OP's the jerk here. Obviously, if it could work out and help them, all the better. But I just think, simply put, for all the reasons OP's mentioned here, wanting to keep things private and only to their dad, especially when they're suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia and it's potentially just going to make things way more complicated for them in their final days if she was around, it's just such a safe not the jerk. GSD Enthusiast commented, "Not the jerk since your dad is suffering from dementia. It would basically be like sharing a room with a stranger. If not now, then at some point in the future. It's also extremely rude of your cousin to go above your head and make arrangements with a facility without discussing it with you first." ETA, does no one read the post? They mention that dad is suffering from dementia right there. Our next story is, am I the jerk for prioritizing my house over my boyfriend and his dog? I, 32-year-old female, have been with my partner, 34-year-old male, for 4 years. Back in October, the lease on his apartment was coming to an end, and instead of looking for a new place or resigning, he suggested the idea of us living together at my place. Now, I'm an interior designer with a house that's completely paid off that I work out of. I started my own design business and used the basement of my home as a staging area when working with clients. When my boyfriend suggested moving in with me, I admit I was very hesitant to do so. My boyfriend has a dog, a 6-year-old beagle, and while I quite enjoy the dog when at my boyfriend's place, the thought of it in my home gave me anxiety. I was upfront with my boyfriend about it, letting him know how much the aesthetics of my home meant to me and that I didn't really see a pet entering my lifestyle because of it. He told me not to worry and promised I wouldn't even know it was in the house. I was still hesitant to do so, but after a couple of weeks of conversation, I agreed, under the condition that the dog is cleaned up after daily. He sheds like crazy and is trained not to jump onto any white or lighter colored furniture, all of which my boyfriend agreed. Well, now it's been just over 2 months and I'm absolutely miserable. The dog has naturally longer nails that, even when trimmed, have completely ruined my hardwood floors. His hair is all over my furniture and he stained and dirtied all of my bedding. At first, I tried not to nag too much about it, as I understood there was going to be an adjustment period for the dog coming into a new house and being trained a new set of rules, but so far, nothing has happened. My boyfriend was okay with the daily cleanup at the start, but now gets frustrated when I ask him if he's going to vacuum the hair every day. We ended up getting into a fight about it when he dozed off on the couch, and I woke up to let him know that I needed the vacuuming done before a client got to my house. He went off on me, stating that I was too over the top about how my house looked, who cares about the dirt and the hair, that my clients won't care, and that I needed to chill out and stop berating him like a mother. I know I'm over the top about the cleanliness and the presentation of the house, but it's not only my place of work and my income, it's also my passion. I then told him that I don't think us living together right now is going to work. And while I do love him and want to move forward with our relationship, I don't want to have to make him choose between the dog and myself. He rightfully got upset, said some pretty hurtful comments, called me selfish and shallow, took his dog, and is now staying at a friend's place. We haven't spoken in about 4 days, but I have had mutual friends reach out, all of whom except one took his side and think my expectations are unreasonable and that the way my home looks shouldn't come before my relationship. I think OP's pretty clearly not the jerk here. He agreed to do something that he realistically didn't actually want to commit to. Dogs, and even though beagles are a little bit smaller, they're still kind of an active breed, are almost always going to be slightly messy, shedding creatures in the house. I don't think OP's the jerk, but honestly, I think they were agreeing to a deal that was almost impossible to live up to anyways, unless you have like a very regular maid keeping care of the place. I don't know if it kind of just says a lot about me, but I feel like most average people aren't going to rise to the level of keeping things meticulous, which is brushing your dog probably multiple times a week, vacuuming extremely regularly, the lint roller kind of being your friend, etc. Genicillin commented, "Not the jerk. He agreed to clean up after his dog and maintain the standards of your home. He lied. They need to move out. You may be over the top. I don't know. I probably couldn't live like that, but it's your house. And not only that, it's part of your job with which you make money to maintain said house. Yes, it matters if your house is dirty when clients come over. If he doesn't like it, he can live somewhere else." Our next story is, am I the jerk for invading my sister's privacy because I don't want her to go to jail? I, 34-year-old female, borrowed my sister's, 34-year-old female, let's call her Lisa, iPad for a work course. For context later, we both work in the same industry, but Lisa's also working a second job and both jobs require licensing and a clean criminal record. I was in the middle of the course, everything was dandy until a Telegram message notification from a Tom popped up on the iPad. Was writing notes, so I impatiently swiped it away. However, the notifications kept coming, and by that time, my eyes were traveling to the messages out of reflex. The notifications only showed replies from Tom, but whatever I saw was enough to raise alarm bells in my head. I can't remember everything, but this is what I saw. You have $1,000. I transfer in. You create account, all right? iClub88. Give me your ID and password. My VPN kept disconnecting. Can log you in again. Been doing it for 6 years and I've never lost money. Don't believe I can't help you win some too. A quick search on the web would tell you iClub88 is an online gambling platform. We don't gamble. I fought with the demons inside of me for all of 10 seconds before I tapped into the app. I realized Tom is someone I know as well, and whose name was in fact Dave, 27-year-old male. We got to know Dave in a work event recently, so I wouldn't call us friends. The first thing I noticed in the convos was Dave's incessant pestering for Lisa's you-know-what photos, which thankfully she kept saying no, but the tone of the entire conversation was sexual and there was flirting on both sides. I consulted a close friend of ours, and from what we gathered, this is most likely the start of a money mule scam. The naughty photo requests are hopefully Dave being a horny little crap, but I fear there's more sinister intentions behind it. To cut the story short, I ended up confronting Lisa within a day by apologizing for going through her Telegram and then proceeding to tell her I think she's getting scammed. In our country, victims who are being scammed to become money mules still get a fine and jail term. Our close friend has a young cousin, juvenile, under investigation. He also personally knows an adult professional awaiting sentencing. It's not a matter of if, but when she will be getting jailed. Because of this, her career is gone. I told Lisa the implications of losing licensing for both her jobs, which she's told me multiple times how much she loves. The response I got for her was a deadpan, "Only a few years jail term, whatever." I'm going to attribute this to ego. When she confirmed that none of the money was hers and the $1,000 I saw in the conversation was Dave transferring $1,000 into her account and lost it, I knew most likely that money laundering is involved. When I got to the part about the adult photos and how the Telegram ID was not tagged to his number and why he's using a VPN, she got really ticked and embarrassed. She did add that she had since closed the account, so I should shut the freak up about it. She hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the jerk? I'm frantic. What should I do? Honestly, I hope a number of the details OP mentioned in this post are not completely accurate. I mean, imagine OP actually makes this post and includes like the actual names of these people, the exact ages, where this is going on. I mean, it sounds like OP kind of just needs to get them a lawyer. As far as being the jerk for looking at those messages and stuff, I feel like it's kind of pretty human to just kind of read those things when it pops up, or especially if you're concerned to take a look at them. But general opinion may vary wildly on whether or not OP is the jerk for actually going ahead and doing so. Tinya Juma commented, "You should not speak to anyone about this except for a lawyer who can keep everything you say confidential. It doesn't matter if Lisa's angry at you. A lawyer might suggest you delete this post. Do not give any other details on Reddit." Edit. Whoa. I'm not saying to report it or report Lisa. I'm saying talk to a lawyer to make sure you and Lisa are protected from prosecution. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to let someone else use my address? My partner's sibling, A, adores their distant relative B and wants to help B's kids get into an elite public school in our district. A and B live outside this district. A is our landlord and we pay fair rent. A is pressuring us to allow B to use our address so the kid can go to this school, assuming kid scores high enough on the admissions test. A decided to loop us into a text convo with B and put us on the spot asking if they can do this instead of asking us separately about this first. My partner and I are in professions that are subject to background checks and ethical codes, and my understanding is that schools these days are much stricter about residency requirements. I don't want to put our professions in jeopardy. Am I the jerk for saying no? Now, if this was for like your siblings' kids or your partner's siblings' kids, I could understand. But when it starts like risking your livelihood and it's for somebody that you really don't know, even at a family get-together, you may not see this person. I don't blame OP for 1 second for backing out of it and saying, sorry, no way. Raven MN commented, "This is so many people removed. It's ridiculous for them to even ask. If B wants their kids to go to a particular school, B needs to move to the district. This is the kind of amateur fraud that is so easy to detect. They are idiots to think they can get away with it. I'd be worried what else your landlord is doing that is sketchy. Do they actually have a license to rent out your space? I'd check if I were you." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my sister that she's insane for not teaching her daughter English? My 20-year-old female, family is originally from Sweden. My sister Kristen, 30-year-old female, was born in Sweden and was raised speaking Swedish and English. She and my parents came to the US when she was 10, and I was born not long afterwards. I was raised only speaking English. My parents didn't bother having me learn Swedish because it isn't a widely spoken language where we live, and in fact, when I was little, they had a rule that Kristen could only talk to me in English. They did this because they didn't want to hinder me from being able to communicate with my peers. I visited Sweden maybe twice when I was really little and don't have any recollections. Kristen, however, has a lot of fond memories from her childhood. Since she's moved out, she's regularly visited Sweden. She's been married to her husband Eric, 30-year-old male, for about 3 years. Eric's also from Sweden and came to the US in his early 20s. Eric was also raised speaking Swedish and English, but is more comfortable talking in Swedish. They have a daughter, Elsa, who's 18 months old and learning to talk. When they came over for Christmas dinner, I tried to talk to Elsa, but Kristen told me I can only talk to Elsa in Swedish, but not English. I thought she was raising Elsa speaking both Swedish and English, but she told me that they're not going to bother teaching her English. I asked why, and Kristen told me that they want Elsa to be connected to her heritage, and also because they plan on eventually moving back to Sweden. I asked if she had an idea as to when they'll move, and she said it could be 1 year or 10 years. I told Kristen that she's doing Elsa a big disservice by not teaching her English. She told me it won't be an issue as she'll learn it when she goes to kindergarten. I said that I can understand wanting Elsa to know Swedish, and if they had any immediate plans to move back to Sweden, then I could understand prioritizing Swedish over English. But since they don't have immediate plans to move back there, she should learn both languages now so she can communicate with her English-speaking relatives in the US, as well as her peers and her teachers when she goes to school. I said that not teaching Elsa any English at all is insane. Kristen got mad at me and told me I'm being xenophobic. I told her this would not be an issue if Elsa speaks English too, but because almost nobody around here speaks Swedish, she's hindering her daughter. She said that it's possible that by the time Elsa's ready to start school, they might have moved back to Sweden. My parents are mostly on my side, but they say that they understand why she's doing this, and I was being harsh by saying that she was insane for not teaching her English and should be more understanding. I feel it's equally harsh for her to say I'm xenophobic. I think it's great to be multilingual, but one needs to be able to communicate with the majority of the people where they live. But now I'm starting to feel like maybe I was too harsh. I don't think OP's the jerk at all. I think unless they have plans to move back to Sweden before they even start like preschool, that they are doing their kid such a huge disservice. Like, is it crazy for me to say that they're probably developmentally hurting their kid because they're not going to be able to understand anything that's going on? For them to say, oh, they'll just learn in kindergarten is a wild thing to me. Not even like oh, well, they'll start learning in preschool or whatever. I mean, essentially, learning a whole new language from the get-go of starting off kindergarten is essentially like saying your kid doesn't really know how to speak and they'll just catch up with everybody else. At least in my neck of the woods, they had some Spanish-only classes, but you're gonna have to find some kind of like special educator if you're going to teach them in Swedish in America. Like, would they even admit the kid into kindergarten if they can't speak English? Redhead926 commented, not the jerk. They live in the US, but they might move back to Sweden, so they're not teaching their daughter English. That's actually pretty dangerous. For example, what happens if Elsa gets lost and she can't understand when people ask her where her parents are, nor could she tell anyone who they are? Every little kid gets lost at some point in their lives, so this isn't an unlikely scenario. In an emergency, how would, say, 3-year-old Elsa be able to tell anyone? I also have a good friend from Sweden, and she speaks 8 languages. According to her, English is a required subject in school in Sweden. So Elsa would actually be behind other kids who may have been speaking and/or understanding English their whole lives. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not sharing my lottery winnings from a white elephant gift? The recent family Christmas party was at my 22-year-old male house this year, and about 25 people showed up. The traditional game this year was White Elephant. My family plays the dice version with some house rules for context. Anyone who doesn't have a gift by the end of the game will receive $10 as a gift. Trading gifts is allowed only with the $10 consolation gift. The game had a total of about 40 gifts. I ended the game with 4 gifts and 4 family members ended with none. My gifts were a space heater, windshield wipers, a 20-pound gummy bear, and a $50 Starbucks gift card. Of the 4 people without gifts, 3 of them got rejected, meaning only 1 trade was made. My cousin, 26-year-old female, ended with $50 worth of lottery tickets, but assumed they'd be worth nothing and I don't go to Starbucks. We couldn't trade because of the rules above and argued that the gift cards and lottery tickets had a numerical value like the $10 gifts, so they should be tradable. The family agreed and more gift cards were exchanged. Trading ended and people began using their gifts, so I went to put my gifts back in my room and a quarter to scratch the 5 $10 tickets. I wasn't expecting to win anyway. As I thought that, scratching the second, about to move on to the third, I did a double take as I realized I'd won $25,000. For a second, I thought they were fake, but my grandma, 82-year-old female, who bought them wouldn't do that. I sat in my room for a bit and decided to keep quiet about it, knowing how some family members might react. I thought about how to tell them throughout the party. When they asked, I said no and that I threw them out. The next day, the 29th, I asked my mom, 58-year-old female, to come with me to cash in the lottery ticket. She was surprised, of course, and told me that I needed to go to the casino. My brother, 28-year-old male, thought it was funny and tagged along. He proceeded to post snaps of me being handed $100 bills in the casino. Although I told him not to say anything because of the commotion it would cause and that I would share some with the family, he posted it anyway. An hour passes and I'm pulled into a group chat of people from the party plus family members that couldn't make it. I said I would give everyone who came to the party $250 and thought I was being selfish. For 30-ish people that attended, that's $7,500 right there. I felt that was fair. Family members who weren't there argued that they shouldn't be excluded. Others argued that $250 isn't enough if I have $25,000. After about 30 minutes of arguing, I was ticked and gave up negotiating. I told everyone that I'm sorry that you're not happy with your white elephant gifts this year and that the rule was that all trades are final. I kept all the money, put $15,000 in my savings, and invested the rest. Many of my family members are still upset with me, even as far as calling me cruel and heartless. I told them that if $250 isn't enough from a $100 limit, they're the selfish ones. Am I the jerk? OP's not the jerk here, but really, they lost the second they told anybody. In any situation like that, you should just deny, unless it's one of those lotteries so big that literally you have no legal recourse but to give them your name because they have to publicize it. And even then, if it's that big, I've read that one Reddit post about what you do if you win the lottery, and it's all about finding the right financial advisor who's going to create some company that can claim it on your behalf that doesn't get tracked back to you. Basically, unless you can help it, never tell extended family that you've come into a windfall. Even Enthusiasm7223 commented, "This is why my personal rule is I never give out lottery tickets as any sort of gift. Because if you lose, people are like, haha, you got nothing for your gift. If you win, everybody wants a piece of it. It's your money. You don't need to share it with anybody, and you will never make anyone happy because they all want more, and if you end up with more than them, they'll think you're being greedy. Nobody wins in that way." Also, your brother was a super huge jerk for posting it online, knowing there was going to be issues. You offered to be nice, and everybody said it wasn't enough free money, so you did the right thing. No one gets anything, and you get to have some savings cushion and a little investing. Not the jerk, and don't think twice. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.